Why are you saying sorry? I hate that word. Can your family afford this food in your entire lives? Maybe this will teach you to move faster. Before Jennifer could react, Tracy grabbed the hot plate of pepper soup and threw it at her. Bryan was a young billionaire with a generous heart. At 30, he was not only admired for his success, but also for his humility and kindness. He was raised in a family that valued respect and integrity. Bryan knew that true love wasn't just about beauty or charm. It was all about character. Bryan was not like other rich men. At 30, he had achieved what most people could only dream of. He was the owner of a multi-million tech company in the country, which made him to earn the title of one of the youngest billionaires. But what set Bryan apart was not his money or fame. It was his heart. Bryan's mansion was grand, with shiny marble floors, wide hallways, and sprawling gardens. But while everything sparkled with wealth, there was no arrogance in the air. The three workers in the house, Jennifer the cook, James the cleaner, and Grandpa John the gatekeeper, were happy because Bryan made sure they were cared for. He believed that money meant nothing if it couldn't make life better for others. When Bryan started dating Tracy, a stunning and confident woman, he thought he might have found the one. After months of dating, he decided to take the next step and invite her to his mansion. "Tracy," Bryan said one evening over dinner, "I've been thinking. My family is returning from the United States in a month, and I'd love for them to meet you. But I want you to spend some time here at the house before they arrive. It'll give us a chance to get closer, and you can get a feel for the home." Tracy's face lit up with excitement. "Of course, darling. I'd love that," she replied. Tracy moved into the mansion with excitement, but things quickly took a different turn. Tracy's duties was to supervise all household chores, the dishing of meals for the staff. She would stand in the kitchen, arms folded, watching Jennifer prepare the food. At mealtime, when the staff lined up, Tracy took it upon herself to serve the food. But instead of being fair, she gave them tiny portions. "Jennifer, why are you giving them so much rice?" Tracy would ask. "Don't waste food on people like this." Jennifer's hands would freeze, but she said nothing. She knew arguing would only make things worse. James would often walk away with his plate half empty, glancing at the others and shaking his head. Grandpa John, the quiet gatekeeper, received the worst of it. Tracy would scrape the last of the leftovers onto his plate and deliberately leave out the meat. "You don't need meat at your age, old man," Tracy would say with a smirk. Grandpa John would only nod respectfully and take the plate without a word, his gentle face hiding the sadness in his heart. Every Friday evening, Bryan had a tradition where he usually gave the workers money to appreciate their hard work. He decided to give Tracy money to distribute among the workers as tips for their hard work throughout the week. It has been his tradition from day one. He made it his duty to appreciate the workers every Friday and still pays them their salary in full at the end of the month. "Tracy," Bryan would say with a smile, handing her an envelope. "This is for everyone, make sure you give it to them." "Of course, darling," Tracy replied sweetly, tucking the envelope into her handbag. But Tracy never shared the money. Instead of handing out the tips, she would stuff the cash in her purse, smiling to herself as she thought of the new clothes or shoes she would buy. When the workers waited quietly for their tips at the end of the week, Tracy would wave them off. "Bryan said nothing about tips today," she lied. "If you don't like it, quit." James and Jennifer began to lose hope. But no one said anything to Bryan. They didn't want to cause trouble. Tracy made no effort to hide her feelings toward the workers. One afternoon, as she sits on the couch, scrolling through her phone with a bored expression, she turned to Jennifer, who was cleaning the dining table. "You know," Tracy said, "when I marry Bryan, all of you will be gone. I'm just patiently waiting for his family to return and approve our relationship and marriage." Jennifer froze, shocked by the words. "Ma, what did you say?" Tracy smacked, flipping her hair back. You heard me. I'll fire every one of you, starting with you, Jennifer. I don't like the way you cook. Maybe I'll hire someone who knows how to make real food. Jennifer bit her lip, hurt, but saying nothing. Tracy wasn't done. She turned her attention to James, who was carefully cleaning the glass windows nearby. And you, James, you're always dropping something or making noise. You're lucky I haven't told Bryan about your clumsiness. James looked down at the floor, fist clenched. He had worked hard to earn his place in the house, but Tracy made him feel small. She targeted Grandpa John, the old gatekeeper. One evening, after handing him a plate of leftover food without meat, she said with a smirk, "You're the first one I'll replace when I'm in charge. Why would Bryan need an old man like you standing at the gate? I'll get someone younger and smarter." Grandpa John looked at her quietly, saying nothing, though his wise eyes held a sadness Tracy couldn't see. He knew his boss, Bryan, wouldn't allow such cruelty. As days turned into weeks, Tracy's behavior grew worse. The workers began to lose their joy. Jennifer, who used to hum happily while cooking, walked in silence now. James became anxious and nervous, afraid Linda would accuse him of something. And Grandpa John, though calm as always, grew more withdrawn. Yet none of them complained to Bryan. "The boss treats us so well," Jennifer said one evening, as they gathered quietly in the kitchen. "I don't want him to think we're causing trouble." Grandpa John nodded. "It's not our place to say anything. But sooner or later, Bryan will see her true self." They trusted Bryan's kindness and wisdom. One hot afternoon, Tracy was returning from a shopping trip in her luxury car. As she approached the gates, Grandpa John stepped forward to open the gate. Tracy slowed down, rolling her window halfway, her face filled with irritation. "What is wrong with you, old man?" she snapped. "Why are you so slow? Do you know how hot it is?" "I'm sorry, Mom," Grandpa John said kindly, his hand steady as he pushed the heavy gates open. Tracy didn't wait for the gates to fully open before driving through, her tires kicking up dust. She slammed on the brakes just past the gate, rolled down her window completely, and grabbed a bottle of wine from the passenger seat. "Here," she said, pouring the remnants of the wine into an empty plastic cup she found in her car. The liquid barely filled half the cup. "Take this. Maybe it'll help you move faster next time." Grandpa John looked at her, his expression calm but his heart heavy. "Thank you, Mom," he said softly, taking the cup with both hands. Tracy smirked. "Lucky for you, I'm feeling generous today," and she went into the room. Bryan was watching everything. He noticed how Jennifer's laughter had disappeared, how James avoided Tracy whenever he could, and how Grandpa John grew quieter each day. One evening, as he handed Tracy an envelope of cash for the workers' weekly tips, he decided to follow her. He watched from a distance as she stuffed the money into her purse and walked past the workers. Without a word. Bryan's heart sank. This wasn't the woman he thought she was. Tracy's cruelty reached its peak one afternoon during lunch. She had spent the morning sitting in the living room, scrolling through her phone and giving orders to the workers. By lunchtime, her mood had soured further, and she demanded that Jennifer, the cook, serve her meal immediately. "Jennifer, where is my food? Do you expect me to starve in this house?" Tracy yelled from the dining room. Jennifer, who was finishing up the final touches on the soup, called back. "I'm coming, Mom, just a moment." But Tracy was not known for her patience. She slammed her hand on the dining table. "Do you think I have all day to wait for you? You're as slow as that old man at the gate." When Jennifer finally emerged from the kitchen, carrying a steaming hot plate of chicken pepper soup and rice, she walked carefully to avoid spilling it. Tracy glared at her, tapping her fingers impatiently. "What took you so long? Are you running a restaurant back there? Tracy snapped as Jennifer set the food on the table. I'm sorry, Mom, Jennifer said softly, her hands trembling slightly. Tracy stood up from her chair, her face red with anger. Sorry. Sorry doesn't cut it. Maybe this will teach you to move faster. Before Jennifer could react, Tracy grabbed the hot plate of pepper soup and threw it at her. The steaming liquid splashed onto Jennifer's arms and chest, causing her to scream in pain as the bowl clattered to the floor. Jennifer staggered backward, tears streaming down her face as she clutched her burning skin. Clean up this mess, Tracy barked. She wasn't remorseful about what she had done. Next time, be quicker. Jennifer fled to the kitchen to cry and also put the hands in running water as she tried to cool the burns on her arms. James, the cleaner, rushed to her side. Jennifer, what happened? James asked, horrified as he saw her red, blistering skin. She poured the pepper soup on me, Jennifer said between sobs. I was just a little late. James clenched his fist, his face a mixture of anger and helplessness. This has gone too far. We can't keep quiet about this. But Jennifer shook her head. No. We can't tell Bryan. I don't want to cause trouble for him. Tracy barged in James' room holding one of her burnt clothes. Her face was twisted with rage. James, she screamed. What is this? She threw the cloth in his face. James looked at the cloth and winced. I'm so sorry, Ma. I didn't mean to burn it. The iron was too hot. Tracy cut him off with a loud scoff. You didn't mean to. Do you know how much this dress cost? It's worth more than you'll ever make in a lifetime. James bowed his head, hands trembling. Please, Ma, I'll do whatever I can to make it right. I'm very sorry. Sorry. Tracy sneered, her voice dripping with venom. Sorry isn't enough. I'll show you what happens when you're careless. Before James could escape, Tracy grabbed the hot iron he had been using. The metal plate was still glowing red, steam rising from its surface. More please, James pleaded, stepping back, but Tracy was relentless. This will teach you to be more careful, she shouted as she pressed the hot iron against the back of his hand. James screamed in agony, pulling his hand away as blisters immediately began to form. The pain was unbearable, and tears streamed down his face as he cradled his injured hand, Tracy not feeling remorseful of action, her face devoid of remorse. Now you'll think twice before burning my clothes again. She tossed the iron onto the ironing board and walked out of the room, leaving James trembling on the floor. That evening, Grandpa John, who had noticed Jennifer's unusual silence, approached her in the kitchen. My daughter, he said gently, what is troubling you? Jennifer hesitated but eventually pulled up her sleeve, revealing the burns on her arm. Grandpa John's eyes darkened with sorrow and anger as she explained what had happened. Grandpa John sighed deeply, his voice heavy with pain. Jennifer, you've endured enough. Bryan must know the truth. This cannot continue. Grandpa John, she used iron to burn James's arm too. Jennifer said to Grandpa John. No, this has to stop. We need to tell our boss what's going on in this house. Bryan had already begun to suspect Tracy's cruelty. He noticed Jennifer's swollen arms when she served dinner that evening, and his heart broke when she tried to hide them. After dinner, Bryan quietly approached Jennifer in the kitchen. Jennifer, he said softly, what happened to your arms? And where is James? I haven't seen him since I came back. Jennifer tried to brush it off. It's nothing, brother, just a small accident. Bryan moved closer to Jennifer. He looked her in the eye and said, don't lie to me, Jennifer, tell me the truth. Tears gathered up in Jennifer's eyes as she finally broke down. Tracy threw a hot plate of pepper soup on me because I took too long to serve her. Bryan's face hardened, his usually kind eyes dark with anger. She did what? Jennifer nodded, wiping her tears. Please don't say anything, Bryan. I don't want to cause trouble. But Bryan shook his head. This is no longer about trouble, Jennifer, this is about respect. And Tracy has none. She will face the consequences. That night, Bryan began preparing for the confrontation. He realized Tracy was not the woman he thought she was. Her cruelty toward his family, disguised as workers, had crossed every line. He knew it was time to reveal the truth and end the charade once and for all. Bryan told Tracy that his family had returned from the United States and wanted to meet her. Tracy, dressed in her best outfit, sat in the living room, excited to make a good impression. Bryan entered the room, followed by Jennifer, James, and Grandpa John. This time in their true roles, Tracy, Bryan began, his voice calm but firm. Meet my family. This is my younger sister Jennifer, who is a medical doctor in the States. My cousin James, a banker. And my father, Mr. Williams, the founder of all our companies and businesses, though he retired last year. Which is why I am the CEO. Tracy's jaw dropped as she stared at them in shock. What? Your family? Yes, Bryan said. They've been here the entire time. The cook, the cleaner, the gatekeeper. They are my family. Tracy stammered. Dale, I didn't know. That's the point, Bryan interrupted. You didn't care to know. You treated them like they were beneath you, criticizing, insulting, and even stealing the tips I gave you for them. Is this how you treat my family if you thought they weren't important? Tracy's face turned red as she tried to defend herself. But Bryan shook his head. I've seen enough, Tracy. Kindness and respect are everything to me. And you've shown me you lack both. This is the end of the road for us. As Tracy left the mansion in shame, Bryan turned to his family, his face filled with regret. I'm sorry I put you through this, he said softly. Grandpa John, known as Mr. Williams, placed a hand on his shoulder, smiling gently. You did the right thing, my son. It's better to see the truth now than later. Jennifer grinned. I told you she wasn't the one, Bryan. But don't worry, there's someone out there who loves you and us, regardless of our wealth. The family hugged, their bond stronger than ever. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment on what you have learned from the tale, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more captivating tales just like this one.